Let's talk about a movie that's pretty good too, and that's light. Really saying it in a very light fashion, okay? Opening Friday, June 10th is a movie written and directed by Phil Tippett. And Eric and Bruce, they're pretty much expert. They're going to talk about what Phil Tippett is all about with Star Wars and Starship Troopers and RoboCop. They'll talk about his maybe lifelong passion for stop motion animation. This is a stop motion animation film called Mad God. It's 30 years in the making. It's finally out this Friday. It's getting a lot of hype behind it, and just because of who Phil Tippett is. I'm going to throw this to you, Bruce. First off, how big of a fan are you of Phil Tippett? Did you know a lot of his work before going into this film, or did you just appreciate him more after watching this movie? Which I forgot to give the plot synopsis, but I'll just say this: there is no dialogue in this movie, just maybe grunts, and you just hear people walking and getting crunched, or I don't even know if they're people. There's sort of I don't know if it's an assassin or mercenary. He goes in his diving bell, and the first maybe 10 to 15 minutes that bell is going down in the depths of civilization, and you understand why this person's going down in the depths of this hole, and because there's a whole just bunch of creatures and monsters and a lot of things happening in this movie. There's surgeries. It's really a bizarre film, and I mean that in a good way. So going back to you, Bruce, how much of a fan of Phil were you, and then are you more after watching this?
I'm a big fan of Phil Tippett, and I'm a big fan of stop motion in general. Like probably my earliest love of movies was around Ray Harryhausen. For the first, 12 years of my life, Jason the Argonauts was my favorite movie when I hadn't seen a lot of movies, but that was the movie I would watch over and over and over again. And I loved all of those early stop motion movies. And of course, I like all the stop motion work that he did. Even up to seeing the stuff he tried to do for Jurassic Park, and then of course got taken over by the beginning of CGI really becoming the main special effects style. Yeah, I love it. And I've been really actively trying to get a screener for this for probably about the last year, but it's still going into lots and lots of festivals. I've been aware of this project for at least the last 10 years. I remember following Phil Tippett and seeing what he had been working on for this. So I was ready for this, but I didn't know much of it. I hadn't seen much of it yet. This is kind of like we just talked about with After Blue. If you get into the vibe, you're going to love this movie. I got into the vibe of this movie, and I love the intense, constant creativity and artistic vision in this movie, and it never stops, and it always is inventive, and to me it's always amazing and more epic than I expected it to be. And every time it would just turn a corner and something else really cool would happen. Can I tell you what the story's about? Maybe, probably not too much, other than it's kind of almost like a vision of hell and the history of humanity, maybe, or something. I don't know. But all I know is that it was one cool and amazing thing after another cool and amazing thing, and really darker than I expected. This is definitely not, your Nightmare Before Christmas stop motion.
Not for kids.
No, this is not your Leica. At one point I remember I was watching this. I think Eric was watching After Blue, and I was watching this, and we were having a weird off. I was like, yours isn't as weird. He's like, no way, man. After Blue's gonna hold Mad God's beer. And I was like, no way, man. And we were like sending stuff back and forth. And I was like, yeah, but does After Blue have 3 devil women servicing a Minotaur as a 1 second flash past? And he's like, yeah, but it's got this. And it's like, so yeah, this is so much a great movie in my opinion. I love this, and I could watch. This is one of those movies easily I could just drop in and watch 20 minutes of it at any point and enjoy myself.
And it's not just for people who are fans of stop motion animation, Bruce?
I don't think so. I think it's definitely for people who like really immersive and singular visions in animation of any sort. I think will like this for sure. I think people who are really fans of like dark sci-fi will like this a lot as well. People who want like just narrative stuff, maybe not so much. But I think a lot of people will like this movie.
Okay, Mad God, the cannons are out. Eric Holmes, what you got?
All right. So first of all, Phil Tippett is very talented. I believe he's does mostly stop motion, visual effects. Like, let's see, we got Empire Strikes Back, Indiana Jones, Howard the Duck, the Golden Child, that sequence with the Pepsi can. Awesome. RoboCop, Willow, Jurassic Park,
Piranha,
Starship Troopers. I mean, the list goes on. As a director, the only thing I knew of him was in the early 2000s. I been watching a bunch of direct-to-DVD movies, you know, because that was kind of a time where like a bunch of really good ones were just kind of sneaking in there. So it wasn't very hard finding diamonds in the rough. And I loved Starship Troopers, as most people do. And they came out with Starship Troopers 2, Hero of the Federation. And I was like, oh, I'm going to check this out. And I put it on, and that movie was fucking, I'll say I did not like that movie. When I heard that he was coming out with a new movie called Mad God, I was like, oh, the guy, no. And this movie, I am so happy to report. I don't know what problems or restraints Phil Tippett had with Starship Troopers 2, but he completely redeemed himself and then some with Mad God. This movie's fantastic. Pretty much everything I said about After Blue, I repeat it here, except this one's animated. It's really, I mean, they're both weird. They both have they both have interesting characters, although these are interesting characters in a different way, because I don't believe there's any. No, there is dialogue. Yeah, so this movie has really interesting characters, but in a completely different way. And I was going to say that there's no dialogue, but there is, specifically with one cameo appearance, we'll say. A really great, unlikely cameo appearance. And a bunch of people that are into cult cinema will probably get
We
that
can
right
spoil
away.
that. Let's spoil that. Why don't you just say it?
Should we?
Yeah, because a lot of people won't know. I mean, look, I'm sure a lot of people, unlike me, I still haven't seen Repo Man, but they won't know what Alex Cox looks like right now. But so Alex Cox has a pretty cool cameo.
But then like they have the scene where it shows God, or I guess it's supposed to represent God. Maybe it's like the dictator. You see the mouth moving, and it's just baby noises coming out of it. Like it's got so many weird stuff, but like the weird stuff is really integral to the overall themes. I haven't quite pieced out what it's about. I think it's like the main character, what's the name of the main character that we follow around? Like the Spelunker or something, or
I guess he sounds like a spelunker because he's that diving bell just in there, but just trying to go all the way down.
It's basically just him descending into hell is what it is, and it's just the more and more fucking weirdness, and the animation in this thing is next level. Like I'm not a stop motion expert, but you almost forget it's a stop motion at times. You don't really, because it's so weird looking, but like the way they do the camera, and then the way they use a lot of stuff in the foreground to give it depth, and like this thing is something to behold. Even like you could watch this as a allegory on humanity. You could watch this as hey, I just want to see a bunch of bloody shit and weird shit happen. Or you can say, you know what, you're at a bar and this is just playing on one of the TVs in the background. So when someone goes to get a drink, to look up and go, wait, what the fuck is that? Yeah, this thing is I said, we saw a couple of masterpieces. This is the other one. This movie is fucking fantastic. And I'm so happy and excited for Phil Tippett that he just knocked this one out of the park, because I hated Starship Troopers so much. This is like one of those things going in, I'm like, this is not going to be good. And I was proven so fucking wrong. I'm eating my hat right now. You can't see it because my camera doesn't work, but I'm totally eating my hat.
All right, so that is Mad God. It opens in select theaters in New York, and actually in New York and LA, June 10th. Actually, more importantly, though, we're going back to Shudder, Bruce's favorite streaming service. I'm putting words in your mouth. Is that almost accurate, Bruce? It's your favorite streaming service, or right up there?
I'd say it's most consistently interesting and good. Yeah, for sure. For the amount of stuff they're putting out, their quality is higher, I think, than most of the other streaming services.
And so, yes, this movie, Mad God, makes its streaming debut June 16th on Shudder, exclusively on Shudder. For more information, go to madgodmovie.com. Bruce Berkey, your rating on the film?
I think this is going to be classic. I think this gets classic rating. So 5-star classic. I can imagine watching this the rest of my life on and off. Whenever I feel the need to watch it, I'll pop it in. I think it's a crying shame that this isn't going to get a wider release, though. This is a movie that would be really great to see on a big screen.
Yes.
Because surprising, you don't think of stop motion being epic, but there are some very epic things to see in this movie, and to see them on a big screen would be really cool.
We're going to be hopeful here. The cream rises to the top with all the great word of mouth with Mad God. Hopefully this ushers in a whole new, I don't know. Stop motion animation is always going to be there, but the fact that it's front and center with like Bruce's with this classic film, that's not going to hurt its cause whatsoever. I'm giving Mad God, for me, it's a solid 3.5. I'm giving Mad God a solid 3.5. For me, it's a solid recommend. I'm not a big fan of stop motion animation, but I was just joking. For me, I mean, it's just obvious. It's a 5-star film. You can't give it 3.5 stars. There is a barrier to entry, and the barrier to entry for Mad God is if you want really predictable movies and just a normal experience, don't watch Mad God. If you want to
watch Mad Dog, expand your horizons.
Well, yeah, expand your If you don't want to be imaginative, do not see this movie. This is a very, very good movie. 5 stars for me. Finally, Eric Holmes, your rating on Mad God.
Yeah, but shooting the same shirt cannon that I shot at After Blue. This is another 6.9 star banger. I can see this movie like in probably 10, 20 years. There's going to be some local metal band called Damn Dog, Mad God backwards, or Dog Damn, however. And then they're going to do the Nosferatu thing where they play the movie, but they play music over it. Like there's so many fun things you could do with this movie. Like in that kind of realm, I could see people doing midnight movies of this where, cosplay.
Yep. Cosplay.
Strange ass cosplay. But this is a movie that's a freaking masterpiece. And it's going to live on forever. And I could totally see like Rocky Horror Picture kind of following for this, or maybe even a Big Lebowski kind of falling for this, like people just going nuts for Mad God.
Phil Tippett said it himself. I listened to the podcast with his long interview with Mark Maron at the WTF podcast. He was asked by Maron to describe his work, and Tippett, especially with Mad God, this actually really works with the whole tone of the film. He said his aesthetic is horror and whimsy. So if you think of horror and whimsy counterpoints, which is, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of gory moments, horrific moments. Just on the flip side, there is a little bit of whimsy behind it as well. I know that sounds perverse, but give yourself a shot. Give yourself a shot to see Mad God. Yeah, that is great. All 6.9 for Eric, 5-star classic for Bruce, and 5 stars for me for Mad God. This is probably going to be one of my top 10 of the year easily. This is such a classic movie. I don't know what else to say about Mad God.